today. Happy new Gregorian year in 2026. So this is the first astro news of the year. I have so much to share to you, but in this video I'm also going to talk a little bit about the energies of the year 2026. Not just this week, but I can tell you it's going to be big, okay? So if you are curious about it, stay with me until the end of the video, because I will give some interesting information. So starting off with the full moon that we just had. So now the moon is in the last degrees of Leo, so already past Cancer. But this full moon was big. It was one of the, let's say, marks of 2026 and also, the continue of 2025. Why? Because if you remember way back when Jupiter moved into Cancer, we had the new moon in Cancer right after. So it was in June and there was a lot of planets in Cancer sign. So right after this big movement of Jupiter, that it only moves once a year per sign, we had Jupiter in Cancer. And we knew back then, and probably you've noticed the entire year and all these months, that this has been expanding our emotional sensitivity. So we were probably never as sensitive as we have been right now. Like, I can speak for myself, you probably also feel it. Like, it's much easier to cry, it's much easier to tune into our emotions. And that's exactly the point, because Jupiter has been expanding that. So our emotional sensitivity, our ability to be vulnerable, to express our needs, also, of course, the relation that we have with these needs. So being super clear and super honest with ourselves, even if we try to lie, we cannot. So this has been the theme. So the new moon in Cancer right after Jupiter moved into Cancer, we plant those seeds. And now 6 months after, the full moon happened. So we know that in the new moon we plant the seeds, and we know that in the full moon it's like the heightened, when all this is heightened. So we can see the growth that happened through all these months. So the themes that probably came to you during this full moon were already planted way back during the new moon. So think back and see whatever that is meaning for you. Of course, you can check more infos in the area of your life that has Cancer. That's where the growth is happening. But yeah, so probably you've noticed more sensitivity or the same themes coming up, or maybe even the topic with boundaries, needs, like all of this is related to Cancer. Also our home. Okay, so maybe finding a new place to live. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to be? With whom? What's your family like? What is your home like? So all these topics are topics of Jupiter in Cancer and Moon in Cancer. So this is one thing. And then about this week, so all the transits, I was just checking it and I think it's so interesting. So let's start with today, because today is the day that I'm recording this. So today we have a square between the Moon and Uranus in Taurus. So both in fixed signs. When we have squares, it's like tensions, disagreements, so to say. It's interesting because the moon is in Leo. Also, we will have Jupiter in Leo later on this year. So whenever we'll have the moon in Leo or planets in Leo, you can have a preview of what's to come soon. Oi, que foi, meu bebê? I love it. So cute. Then also today we have a conjunction between the Sun and Venus in Capricorn. So this will not be the only one, as also on the 8th of March we have a conjunction between Venus and Mars in Capricorn, and also on the 9th we have a conjunction between the Sun and Mars in Capricorn. So Sun, Venus and Mars and Mercury are all in Capricorn. But now talking about this conjunction between the Sun and Venus, so we know that the Sun represents everything we are putting light into, so it's the clarity, so to say. And Venus is our ability to relate. So also how we approach the different topics in our life. So today, the awareness meets the way for us to approach the topics. So it's a moment to get some clarity. It's a moment to be more practical about how are we going to make things happen? How are we going to move forward? Because remember, Capricorn is building, so it's building structures. So this is exactly the perfect moment for us to learn about structure and to bring more structure into our lives. We are getting these cosmic helps, and sometimes they come through people. Imagine someone you meet, a conversation that gives you the insight on how to move forward or how to achieve that dream. So this is all happening right now. So today we plant this seed, and then on the 8th, this seed gains a new flavor, because then also Mars and Venus are together. So Mars represents our actions. So if our approach and our actions meet on the let's build energy, we start to build something actual. And then on the day after, on the 9th, we have the conjunction between the Sun and Mars. So here awareness meets the action. So this is the week for us to start building, to get clarity, to plant the seeds, to start doing the work, to devote ourselves to what we want to grow. But it's not it. So at the same time that this is happening, conjunctions between the Sun, Moon and Venus with Mars, we also have oppositions between these actors and Jupiter. Because remember, the Sun is in Cancer right now, but Jupiter, the Sun is, sorry, no, not in Cancer, the Sun is in Capricorn right now, but Jupiter is in Cancer. Jupiter has been in Cancer since it entered it in June. It's had its movement forward and then started the movement backwards, so it has been on a retrograde. That's why certain topics like where do I want to live, how do I connect with my emotional sensitivity, my family, my emotions, it's fluctuating. And if we got clarity before, now it's normal that we question things because it's a retrograde, it's under review. So on the 9th, we have the opposition between Venus to Jupiter. And then on the 10th, we have the same opposition, but now with the Sun and then with Mars. This is, I would call it, a little bit of a reality check. Okay, so it's the uncomfy part. Because when we have oppositions, one is pulling to the right, another one is pulling to the left. It's an opposition. So if Jupiter, which calls for our expansion, is expanding the sensitivity, is expanding the need for a home, the sense of home, the inner security, then Venus, Mars and the Sun are being practical, are being pragmatical. So they are saying like, okay, Jupiter says, I want a home now, I want a place where I feel cozy, where I feel comfy, where I can just relax and be myself. But Sun, Venus and Mars, Sun will show you something like, okay, the reason why you're not having that is, and then Venus is like, okay, you want to do that, so you have to start attracting or acting like, and then Mars will say, okay, so you need to take these steps. It's not just on your imagination. If you want to act and make things happen, there are practical steps you need to go through and seasons you need to go through. And Capricorn is a climb, so it represents the climb we'll have to go through to manifest these things. Then on the 11th, we have a square between Venus and Chiron, and on the 12th, the same square between the Sun. So we know how Chiron represents the wound and the gift, okay? So when we have a square with this, first with Venus, it's like, I would say, I think about a child. My image is like when we are children and the toy gets taken away and you are like, ah! And then on the day after, it's the same but with a different awareness. So we see it through different eyes. So, and when we have Chiron, we have a wound, but we have a gift. So it's the alchemy happening. But first we need to approach it maybe with a little bit of so that then we can approach it with And we know that also Venus and the Sun are very pragmatical right now. And the Chiron is in Aries still, so it's a little bit more like the child again. So also says that sometimes pragmatism doesn't allow us to take the risk and Chiron asks us to take the risk. So we have to step out of our comfort zone. We have to step a little bit out of what is the rational thing, what is the right way to do so, because there is no right way to do so. So this is for this week, but now just in a preview for the year. This is gonna be a big year, okay? So in this year, all our retrogrades will happen in water signs, but this is not the point. The point here that I want to share is that Jupiter will enter Leo and Chiron will enter Aquarius. So why is this big? Okay, why is this big? Because, so my cameraman had a problem, but just in a nutshell, saying that the eclipses this year will happen in the axis Aquarius Leo. Jupiter will also be in Leo. So think about authenticity, passion, and at the same time collective, how to integrate this passion and this authenticity in the collective. And yeah, that's it for today. I don't want to be too long, and if you want to know more, you can always contact me for private readings. I would love that. Bye bye.